Technology has changed dating forever, and for millions of us. But meeting strangers on an app brings new risks into our lives.
He just wouldn't stop.
He wouldn't stop?
No, he just kept carrying on.
According to a survey we carried out, a quarter of people who had used dating apps in the last 4 years reported sexual assault whilst on a date.
Oh my God.
It's time to ask tough questions about dating apps and sexual crimes.
I was screaming for quite a long time.
And reveal how much they're really doing, or could be doing, to protect you.
There's no option to report sexual assault.
People are going to be sexually assaulted or raped, whether or not you have Tinder.
I had the text message off him saying that he's so sorry he's murdered Catherine, make sure the police go in first.
I'm going to investigate what happens when a date goes wrong, and you want to report an alleged sexual assault to the dating apps.
Every minute, young people are matching on dating apps. The most popular dating app in the world is Tinder. It's been downloaded more than 430 million times and created 65 billion matches worldwide. In Britain alone, more than 5 million people have a Tinder profile. And for many people, it's been a huge success. According to a survey we carried out, 74% of men and women aged 18 to 35 who've used a dating app in the last 4 years have had either positive or neutral experiences with dating apps. But for some people, meeting someone on dating apps isn't always successful. I'm in East Anglia to meet 26-year-old Beex. After a breakup, Beex joined Tinder in March 2020. A few days after setting up a profile, she matched with a 27-year-old guy.
Hey Beex, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. Come on in. So we talked for, I don't know, maybe a week. We were chatting every night, and I said, do you want to come over and meet me?
So he turns up, and what were you thinking about him? Was he what you expected initially?
We chatted for a little bit, and then he was like, oh, do you want to go upstairs? So we went upstairs.
But when they got in the bedroom, Beex says things changed.
Then he... Sorry.
Take your time.
So everything was fine to begin with. And then he was actually hurting me. And I told him to stop. I said no. I tried to wriggle away a little bit. I even tried to kind of push him off me, and he just wouldn't stop.
He wouldn't stop?
No, he just kept carrying on. I just kept saying stop and no, and I even said, you're hurting me, and he just didn't stop.
Beex, that must have been so frightening for you, just hearing that,
Beex says that eventually the guy stopped and went home, but Beex felt that she'd been sexually assaulted.
Did you think about going to the police at all?
I didn't go to the police, actually, because I unfortunately was also assaulted when I was younger, and I actually went to the police when I was younger, and the police didn't do anything, and it was a really uncomfortable, traumatic experience for me, actually.
Instead, she decided to report him through Tinder's reporting system. Tinder says that they treat incidents of sexual assault with the utmost urgency and seriousness. In their terms and conditions, Tinder states that if someone experiences abuse or assault, they work to promptly investigate reported crimes, assess and take appropriate action.
There's no option to report sexual assault, so I reported his profile.
But then something unusual happened to her Tinder profile.
The day after I had reported, and instantly got blocked.
They blocked you?
And it had you've violated the terms and conditions, but it didn't actually tell me what it was I'd done wrong. My account was completely gone, and I wasn't able to obviously go on Tinder anymore.
Do you have an idea of why that might be, how you've ended up?
I do wonder if he then reported me as well, and for some reason I was the one that obviously got taken off.
Beex was surprised that she was banned from Tinder. But her report of his profile was also ignored, despite what Tinder promises its users.
I didn't get any response.
Can I just stop you? So you reported his profile and didn't get a response from Tinder at all?
No, I didn't get anything from them. So I did like an online form and everything to explain what happened. I basically just explained that we'd met up at my home, and that he'd assaulted me, basically, and that I was worried for anybody else who would, meet up with him, and that he should really be taken off Tinder.
Beex didn't get an immediate response to this online report either. But suddenly, 9 months later, an email dropped into Beex's inbox. It was from Tinder.
What did it say, that response?
It was just an email to say, thank you for reporting this. We're really sorry to hear about your experience, and here are some links to support that you can access. It was just completely automatically generated. I think that they have a duty to protect people, and I think that in terms of false reports, I actually think that it is worth taking the risk that you might be banning the wrong person for the sheer amount of people that you would be protecting.
Do you think Tinder should have a responsibility?
I think that they should have a system in place whereby it's easy to report sexual assault to them, and that I think that they should be banning anybody who does have those reports made against them.
In our survey, 37% of dating app users have reported someone for inappropriate behaviour. Of those, 47% were dissatisfied with the action that the dating platform took.
Hold on.
It seems that Tinder's reporting system is not working as they claim in their terms and conditions. Beex didn't experience a prompt investigation or see appropriate action taken by Tinder like they claim.
Stay. Put.
I would like to ask Tinder why it took 9 months to respond to Beex's report.
I'm investigating safety regulations on your app and wanted to know if I could request an interview. Right, okay. Can I ask why?
Match Group, which owns Tinder, didn't sit down with me for an interview, but did send an email.
We are very concerned that it took 9 months for a response. We want to investigate this. We aim to respond to these types of reports as soon as possible.
So are dating apps struggling to cope with the numbers of complaints they receive? I'm going to talk to Gareth Tyson. He's one of the leading experts in online data science and social media platforms. He knows how the dating apps normally operate.
So typically when a user wants to report another person's behaviour, they'll be asked to provide a little bit of further information about what's gone on, and that message will be then sent off to a human moderator.
A human being would pick it up?
Typically, yes. Right. That could be somebody who works inside the dating company itself, or it could be outsourced to a third-party company that specialises in these types of moderation activities.
Okay.
The moderator would then be presented with the information and would be expected to make a judgment call as to whether or not this does or does not breach the terms of services of the platform they're looking at.
There are no official stats of the amount of reports Tinder receive a year from its users.
In the case of a young lady that I spoke to, it took 9 months for someone to get back to her. She was sent this very generic reply, and I'm trying to work out why it took so long if you're saying people pick these messages up.
I find it difficult to understand what could have caused such a serious delay, but one possible explanation may have been that there were just simply not enough human moderators to deal with the number of complaints coming in.
But why aren't there enough?
The problem is it's just extremely expensive to do, and many of these apps are free or very low cost. So if you did want to implement such features, users would also have to accept that maybe the cost of them increases, and that's a balance that some people might find difficult to stomach. And the very automated email that you mentioned could have just been a matter of course of the system. So once the moderator did eventually pick up that complaint and process it, they pressed a button which then generated one of these emails.
So, is the answer that dating apps like Tinder are struggling to cope with the number of complaints they receive? I want to find out how many cases of sexual offences linked to dating apps get reported to the police. I've asked every police force in the UK for data on how many reported crimes involve dating apps. 27 of 45 have responded.
The data shows that reported sexual offences linked to dating apps doubled between 2017 and 2020.
In total, from those 27 police forces who provided us with data, more than 6,000 people reported offences linked to dating apps between 2017 and June of 2021. Of those, over 20% were sexual offences. And over a third of those sexual offences were linked to Tinder.
One of the police forces also sent descriptions of the cases. After meeting a suspect on Tinder, the victim attended the home address of the suspect. He began kissing her, then ripped her clothes off and vaginally and orally raped her approximately 5 times. After meeting the suspect on Tinder, when she wakes up, she finds the offender vaginally raping her. He dragged her back into the bedroom and pushed her onto the bed. The suspect took him back to his apartment. Wilson himself administered unknown drug to render him unconscious. The victim met the offender on Tinder. And there's another case in 2021. Oh God. It's just disgusting when you read it like that, and in that much detail, it really does hit home.
The National Crime Agency's latest data from March 2021 looked at reported sexual offences linked to online dating. They found that cases have increased over the past 4 years, and 83% of victims were women. But this is clearly not the full picture, despite increasing numbers. According to the Office for National Statistics, fewer than 16% of sexual assaults are reported to the police. Either because of embarrassment, humiliation, or because people don't think the police can help, like Beex's case. According to our survey, more than 70% who've used dating apps in the last 4 years have used Tinder. The second most popular is Bumble, with 31%, and Plenty of Fish, with 28%. 63% have felt uncomfortable on a date via a dating app. 33% have experienced either harassment or abuse on a date via a dating app. And a very small number of people reported they had been raped on a date. It looks like a great deal of young people across the UK are having bad experiences with dating apps. My investigation has taken me to the Midlands. I've been put in touch with Sasha, who had an awful experience using Tinder in September 2020 when she was just 17. She's chosen to remain anonymous, so we've changed her name.
I think I swiped on him first.
Okay.
And he swiped me back afterwards.
How did you arrange to meet?
We'd been talking for a few days, and I know a few days seems quite short, but I think when it's an online communication and you're talking almost every minute of the day and it's quite intense, I think you move a bit faster.
Although you have to be 18 to use Tinder, Sasha was only 17.
How easy was it for you to get onto Tinder?
Super easy.
Really?
I literally just put my age as 1 year older than I was.
Did you know anyone else your age that had Tinder accounts?
I don't know anyone my age who didn't have a Tinder account.
Oh.
I think everybody my age had an account or had had one previously.
According to Tinder, they do work diligently to ban and block underage users off their platforms. After going for a drive, Sasha goes back to her Tinder date's place and they start hooking up.
Where did things start going wrong?
He was kind of respectful of what I liked until the point where I needed it to stop. I just needed it to stop. I needed a break. So I asked him to stop and he said no.
He said no?
Yeah. It was actually quite a scary experience. He kind of growled no at me.
How did this go on? Like, what happened next? He said no. What did you then do?
Well, I was kind of pinned down for a bit. I couldn't get myself out of the situation physically. I was screaming for quite a long time.
At this point, everything changes. The guy takes out his mobile phone.
I realised he was filming me and didn't consent to the filming either. I did eventually get him off me. He kind of wanted to carry on. At this point, I was in this situation with him and I was scared of what would happen if I said no, because I'd already said it once, and it didn't work.
Did he still have his camera out?
Yeah.
Filming?
It's illegal to film any sexual acts of people under 18 and could get convicted in court under UK law.
Then it became kind of more demanding in that he was instructing me to look at the camera and things like that, which made it more difficult for me afterwards, because the idea of reporting anything where the camera would perceive me to be into it.
Sasha's Tinder date then sends Sasha the videos and wants to meet up with her. She feels she's being blackmailed and has no option but to have sex with him again.
I was worried about what would happen if I said no to meeting him again.
So he raped you the second time?
Yeah.
Did you have any more communication with him?
No, he blocked me, which therefore meant that if I were to want to report him, or even block him from adding me back again in the future, I actually couldn't access his profile to do so.
It disappears?
Yeah, completely disappeared. There's no backlog of people that you've previously matched with.
So here's the problem. At this time, when a person unmatches someone on Tinder, they disappear from their profile and they can no longer see the conversation. Tinder says unmatching is an important feature that helps protect the safety and privacy of its users. But not being able to access the conversation left Sasha feeling powerless.
Do you think if you still had that opportunity to report him, you would have done it in your own time?
Absolutely. I think it's one of my biggest regrets that this could potentially have led to the same thing happening to someone else.
Did you ever think about going to the police?
Yeah, but like I say, there was no way of me accessing any previous conversations because he'd already deleted me off everything.
That conversation was so disturbing, and it's opened my eyes to this issue around reporting. If a user blocks you first, not only are all messages that you've had with them deleted, but you can no longer report that person.
Sasha's case shows that victims do not have easy access to evidence like messages to take further action against the perpetrator. 4 months after Sasha's incident, Tinder decides to change the app so that you can now report someone after they've unmatched you. In a press release from December 2020, Tinder writes,
"We've heard that some of our members believe that they cannot report someone who has unmatched them. We are now making it easier to report someone in-app who has used the unmatch feature."
Despite this, as an individual, you still can't get access to your conversations when you've been unmatched. This means that if Sasha wanted to report the assault to the police would have to request the message history from Tinder directly. Beex and Sasha's case raised a lot of new questions. On the face of it, it seems like dating apps care about our safety. The owners of Tinder, the Match Group, says it uses
every tool possible to keep bad actors off its services and continues to invest in technology to keep users safe.
But in the terms and conditions, all the major dating apps have a massive disclaimer. This is from Tinder.
You are solely responsible for your interactions with other members. Tinder makes no representations or warranties as to the conduct or compatibility of members.
So, does that mean that dating apps are not legally responsible for what happens after a match with these disclaimers in place? I'm meeting a digital specialist lawyer who is behind many of the dating apps' terms and conditions. He has 20 years' experience working out the best terms and conditions for dating apps.
They're not liable.
No, they don't have to, not at all. It's a arm's length transaction. If you want to use the platform, you use it. If you don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. If you use it, these are the terms and conditions under which you use it. We've complied with all the regulations and the rules. We don't have to do more than that.
Peter Adediran hasn't been involved in Tinder's terms and conditions, but he thinks they do much more than necessary.
They have community guidelines, and they actually, their terms and conditions go, I would have thought more than necessary into these different scenarios in terms of the relationships between the people that use their apps. They've got quite in-depth community guidelines, for example, and they've got alert links where you can click on there and report people and report bad behavior. Yeah, I find that extremely comprehensive, actually. From a legal perspective, I wouldn't advise anyone to really go into so much depth.
Why?
Because, in my opinion, the more you show that you have knowledge of something, the more responsibility you have to do something about it. That's more active, more proactive than simply saying, this is what's going on, and so sort of less, and we can report it. If you know more about it, then you're kind of suggesting that you have more of a duty of care because you have knowledge of what's going on your platform.
So they're showing that they're aware of some of the issues.
I'd say, yeah, and they're showing they're aware maybe a bit, too much.
Really?
Yeah, I wouldn't, just from a legal perspective, as a lawyer, I generally don't advise people to say more than you have to or do more than you have to.
So how is it possible that Tinder can stop sexual assault that's linked to the app? How do they do that?
They can't. Short of having a bouncer to go around, a bodyguard to go around with everybody that decides to have a relationship.
But according to Peter, users can still take the apps like Tinder to court in rare cases.
Of course, a user can take Tinder to court. Obviously, they can't take Tinder to, contractually, disclaimer, but the disclaimer does not work if you're negligent.
Right. So what does negligence look like on a dating app? If somebody has offences for, I don't know, sexual assault, and they use the dating app and go on to sexually assault someone they've matched with, is that negligence?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. But you'd have to prove that Tinder had knowledge of it. If, for example, their platform becomes a hotbed for that sort of thing, it starts to fester with criminal activity, then they need to be very careful.
So legally, dating apps are not responsible for what happens after you match with someone on their platforms.
In fact, it's what they pay him to do. So terms and conditions are a way of protecting themselves.
On the other hand, dating apps can't protect themselves from court cases if you can prove the app could or should have stopped it. So how likely is it that dating apps know that sexual offenders operate on their apps? Tinder, at least, seem to be aware of the problem. In many press releases from 2021, they are focusing on the battle against sexual violence and assault. I want to find out how likely it is that perpetrators use dating apps despite the rules of use. I'm going to meet one of the UK's leading campaigners against sexual violence. She sees a trend in the use of dating apps.
Dating apps are specifically designed for people to meet, and they are providing that platform. And I think with that platform and the knowledge that it is essentially a conducive context in some ways for harm and sexual violence and abuse to happen, with that knowledge, it means that there does come like a much greater level of responsibility. some perpetrators use specific dating apps because of that increased level of anonymity that they can get through setting up their profiles. And we know that perpetrators can often also set up multiple profiles as well, maybe on the same dating app, but also across several.
So what needs to happen going forward?
Tech companies need to be doing more. They need to be responding quickly and appropriately to any disclosures of incidents occurring. They need to be acting quickly to essentially improve the situation for any survivors, and that can include sort of blocking perpetrator, or removing images, or removing information, or providing information as well.
So how do perpetrators operate? I want to understand how they're using dating apps to meet their victims. Dr. Ruth Tully works with sex offenders who have targeted victims via dating apps.
Apps and online presence and social media provide a means and opportunity of meeting potential victims, whether or not that perpetrator intends to victimise them in the first place or not. So it provides opportunity, and that's what we need to be aware of when we're thinking about online safety.
So is there a difference between an offender meeting their victim online or, say, in a bar somewhere? Is there an actual difference?
There definitely could be, because it could be that meeting online after feeling that you've got to know someone places the victim in a more vulnerable position, because they're less likely to see those warning signs. And if they're not seeing them, they're not going to act. So somebody might be more vulnerable and not take precautions as well, because you feel closer to that person. You've had lots of chat online. You may have shared photographs or even had video calls. Because you feel like you know them, maybe those typical self-protection strategies that people should engage in, telling your friend where you're going, a check-in call, 3 rings when you get home, for instance, people forget to do that because they feel safe when they may not be.
Is there more opportunity online than there is in real life?
If somebody wanted to offend against someone, they could go out on the street and offend against them. Somebody who may not have the confidence or motivation to do it that way might choose to offend online, but it does provide opportunity. It provides means, and it potentially provides a way of reaching victims who wouldn't normally be accessible to that individual.
It appears that dating apps are being used by perpetrators to find their victims. Even convicted sex offenders.
I've come across this case.
A 33-year-old guy sexually assaulted a 23-year-old woman he met on Tinder in Glasgow in September 2018.
He was sentenced to 15 months in prison and put on the sex offenders register for 10 years. But after an early release, he then went straight back to Tinder.
Registered sex offenders and those with previous convictions are officially banned from using dating apps under each company's terms and conditions.
But with no background checks, there's actually nothing stopping them from setting up an account.
Hey Debbie, oh look at this.
This is socks.
Hello, socks.
Cardiff, 2017. 26-year-old Catherine Smith matched with a guy who calls himself Tony Moore on Plenty of Fish. Plenty of Fish is owned by the Match Group, which also owns Tinder. Their relationship moves fast, but what Catherine doesn't know is her new boyfriend isn't who he says he is. His name is actually Anthony Lowe, and he is 10 years older than he claims. But even worse, he's hiding a very dark secret.
If she wouldn't have known any of his past, she wouldn't have gone with him. I know what my daughter's like. Well, I knew what my daughter was like.
Anthony Lowe has over 140 previous convictions, including assault and violence against women. Convictions he had when he met Catherine via the Plenty of Fish dating app. Facts Plenty of Fish don't know about because they don't carry out background checks. Just weeks after they met, Anthony stabbed Catherine 33 times.
I had the text message off him saying that he's so sorry he's murdered Catherine, make sure the police go in first.
He confessed to you?
Yeah.
By text message?
By text message.
Oh my God, Debbie. That's a nightmare. I cannot imagine what this has been like for you.
It's torn the family apart. It has torn the family apart.
Anthony was handed a life sentence for murdering 26-year-old Catherine.
My heart goes out to you, Debbie, to you and your family. It really does. What changes do you want to see put in place then?
I want checks done.
You do?
I want checks done, definitely. If checks aren't done, anyone can go on it.
And you think that could have potentially stopped this from happening?
Yeah. Yeah. Because he wouldn't have been able to go on it. Catherine wouldn't have been able to meet up with him. Not all dating apps are bad, but it's the ones that you don't have to pay for and don't do the checks. They're the ones I hold responsible. And if I had my way, I'd make sure they were held responsible for it.
Be held responsible?
Yeah. And as far as I'm concerned, they're as comparable as what he is. That's the only one that we've got of us three together.
Only picture?
So a basic criminal background and ID check on Plenty of Fish could have stopped Anthony Lowe from accessing the app and therefore meeting Catherine. None of the popular free dating apps like Tinder or Plenty of Fish offer background checks on users. I'd like to ask Tinder and Plenty of Fish why they don't provide basic criminal background and ID checks in the UK. In an email to me, they write,
We believe in access to background check technology to empower people to make more informed decisions about their safety, and we have partnered with a background checks platform to allow Match Group users to do checks in the US, but other countries have more complex systems making this more difficult.
They added,
These stories of violence and loss of life are horrific. Their advocacy is making an impact and has helped us continue to improve our systems and make our apps a safer place.
I'm in Newcastle to meet Elaine Parker. She's a victim of rape by someone she met on Plenty of Fish. Now Elaine wants to stop convicted offenders accessing dating apps. So she's set up a dating app with full background checks.
So we literally use the National Crime Agency, we use the DBS, we use Interpol, we use the FBI. We do the most thorough checks that are absolutely possible at all. And it includes not only convictions, but cautions, anything on police files. If somebody has any sort of history of abuse, violence, fraud, dishonesty, anything of that sort of nature, well, then they'll not be allowed in.
Where is a line drawn for how much detail you need to know about a person when you meet them online? Do I really want to know that much detail about a person that I'm planning on going on a date with?
Obviously, we will comply with the Rehabilitation of Offenders Act. There is a certain time by which crimes are spent. In my eyes, somebody who's committed rape, sexual assault, there is no rehabilitation for people like that anyway. So we have a very hard line.
Tinder says that they do not tolerate sex offenders.
Sorry for laughing.
Why does that make you laugh, Elaine?
Because it's absolutely untrue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's in their sort of terms and conditions that when you sign up, you have to say that you're not a criminal and not a sex offender. But, you know, that's all you've got to do. Just say, yeah, I'll tick that box. And that's all they do. So they're clearly not good, honest people. So the likes of Tinder and Plenty of Fish and the Match Group are relying on people like that being honest when they sign up, which they're obviously not going to be, and they're not.
How much will this all cost a user?
We have the ID checks to do, and we have these thorough global criminal background checks to do, which do have a cost to us.
Yeah.
You know, each one of those costs us £105.
Wow.
Total honesty, that's what it costs for every single member that signs up to us. That's our raw cost.
There will be loads of people that can't afford to pay to date. Should safety be something that people have to pay for?
Ultimately, no, you shouldn't have to pay for safety. But, you know, to do these checks, there is a cost involved.
Some people might argue, but you know what, the apps are trying. They are doing a lot more now than they used to. What do you say to that?
But there's still no identity checks. There's still no criminal background check. So it's still not going far enough.
Yeah.
My opinion is that it's all smoke and mirrors. They're giving people a false sense of security. It's all voluntary. They still allow fake profiles. They're now saying they're going to introduce an ID check, which again is voluntary. Well, if you're a sex offender, why would you do that? And you can still be on the site though. They're not going to get rid of criminals. They're not going to get rid of sex offenders. They're not going to get rid of fraudsters. So they're giving people a false sense of security, and they're not going anywhere near enough to what they need to do to protect people.
According to our survey, 70% of people we asked said they would support the requirement for all users to undergo basic background checks before signing up for dating apps. Additionally, 67% would still use the app if a payment for that was required. But not everyone agrees that background checks are a good idea. Michelle McManus is head of criminal justice at Liverpool John Moores University and works closely with the National Crime Agency, analysing their data.
When you think about the statistics for rape, and we start with that 17% of people that experience actually rape and report it to the police, and then if you funnel that down to those that then get referred for a charge by the police, so those that go to the Crown Prosecution Service as a charge for rape, and then it even goes narrow down to the amount of people that then get prosecuted for rape. So you're talking about a very small cohort of people that will have a previous conviction for rape.
So you're saying background checks wouldn't necessarily be the answer then?
No, I don't think they would be at all. I think there is potentially a danger in inadvertently saying to people that we've done a background check on our people and our profiles, and that means that the people they're engaging with are safe to use, when we know the proportion of people that have those convictions is very small.
So Peter Adediran, who works closely with multiple dating apps, doesn't find the ID verification useful.
It's expensive. Yeah, and it may not necessarily work. I mean, it's a step in the right direction, but tens of millions of users, and to put in ID verifications and that sort of thing is, it's quite expensive.
But these companies make hell of a lot of money,
yeah.
Should I say? So they can afford it. No?
Well, then, just because you can afford something doesn't mean
you
you're going to do it.
want
I mean, you have a duty to your shareholders as well. You're talking about business and commerce.
Basic background checks don't seem to be the full answer, but just a step to make online dating safer. In Japan, the country's laws have forced Tinder and other dating apps to introduce age verification checks. But those laws don't exist in the UK.
Ultimately, there should be legislation, so the government should get behind this and create some legislation that governs all of the dating apps to make sure that they are safe. Until that happens, it's the dating apps. They need to be responsible.
What I would say is that you should have some sort of joint enterprise or task force between police and the government and private dating apps like Tinder, etc. That I think would be the best way forward.
At the moment, the UK hasn't got any specific laws to protect safety on dating apps. But the government are working on an online safety bill. However, this doesn't include safety when people meet in person after matching online, despite nearly half of users being dissatisfied with the reporting system on dating apps.
What would you have expected Tinder to do after you'd made that complaint about this person?
I think that they should have responded straight away, or within 24 hours, that kind of thing, like a reasonable time frame. I think that they should have actually taken it more seriously, and I think that they should have a team of actual people dealing with the reports,
yeah,
and not their automated system.
Is it possible to create a sort of 24-hour response by people?
Theoretically, yes. You could place people all around the world so that the time zones are always correctly aligned. And you could employ many, many people to take responsibility for that moderation task.
It's affected every aspect of my life, and it was a 5-minute incident. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. That minute where I said stop and he said no changed my life. And it's almost story-like when people say, and that was the moment where my life changed. But it was literally...
I want to speak to the big dating apps themselves. I'm going to try and get an interview with them. Neither Tinder or Plenty of Fish said yes to our interview request, but they did tell us this.
We recognise we have an important role to play in helping prevent sexual assault and violence in communities. We will always work to invest in and improve our systems and search for ways to help our users stay safe both online and in real life. We take every report of violence seriously and vigilantly remove and block any accounts we find that have been reported for this behaviour.
Sasha has decided not to go to the police with the video evidence.
Part of me thinks it's too late. It might affect my career, my friendships. It's just, there's more to consider than just me and him.
How to stop sexual assaults on dates is a problem everyone wants to solve, but there are a few obvious answers. Our survey indicates that right now, sexual offenders are still finding their way onto dating apps and into victims' lives.